Hello, everyone. I am here with Michael Tolajian for the new documentary that's coming out called We Beat the Dream Team. And Michael, you directed this incredible documentary. So I'm so ecstatic to talk to you about this. I watched it a few times already. I'm kind of
Mhm.
obsessed. A little bit about myself. I started collecting basketball cards in the early 90s, and I would
Uh-huh.
sleep with them under my pillow. And one of the cards that I had to trade a ton for, oops, I'm like, where am I showing? This is my Chris Webber rookie
Oh,
card
wow.
here. And
Wow.
it's definitely aged and dated, but pretty much. The storyline is about some of the best individuals in the history of basketball. But I'd love to hear from you a little bit about the project, why you decided to take this job on,
Mhm.
and what it means to this new generation.
Right, right. Well, first I'll say, since you have all those cool sneakers behind you, fans will get to see the 1992 select team. Those guys were wearing Nike Huaraches. I don't know if you remember those, but those I had a pair back then, and those were some cool. I don't. They don't make them anymore. Maybe they'll reissue after this documentary comes out. But
And after
anyway,
this interview, we'll just let the
yeah,
team know over there. If you guys want to bring that back from the archives, we'd love to see it on foot again.
exactly. Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I'm a huge, just like you, I'm a huge basketball fan. I played in high school and I follow the NBA, college basketball. A lot of films and documentaries I've done are basketball related. And so when this project kind of surfaced, and I have a long history with the NBA, NBA Entertainment, and working with those guys over the years. And I was working on another project with them back in 2022, 23. And we were just saying, hey, the Olympics is coming up, in 24. It's going to be another dream team with Steph and LeBron and KD and those guys. It's like, well, what can we do? What kind of stories can we tell that kind of tie into all that? And, you know, then we realized that Grant Hill was now the managing director of USA Basketball men's national team. So it's now his turn to pick the next Olympic team, right? The next dream team. And and we were like, wait a minute now. He was on that select team back in '92 that beat the dream team. And so once that connection kind of clicked, and we reached out to Grant, and he's like, man, I've been waiting to tell that story for 35 years, So it all came together. And then as a filmmaker, I knew like, hey, this is why it makes sense to tell it today, because where Grant is and where the Olympics coming up, it's natural for him to be reminiscing and thinking back to when it all started for him. So that's kind of our way into the story. And then, like you were saying, there's so many. That was 1992. There's a whole generation or two of kids that weren't even born that don't know the story, that don't know much. I mean, they know Michael Jordan and Larry Bird, but they don't know some of the other guys and what happened. And
Mhm.
then obviously the guys on the select team, Grant Hill, Chris Webber, Penny Hardaway, even they don't even remember those guys. So it was a way of introducing the new generation to the forefathers of some of the greats.
Little secret, actually. I used to tell people because I share Grant Hill's last name that he
Uh,
was like my 10th cousin growing up. So I used to have this little chip on my shoulder. I'm like, Grant and I go way back. I'm sure
yeah,
there's some relationship
and it's
in some.
believable. Yeah.
Yes. And I love how you kind of started the documentary out with Anthony Edwards. Was
Mhm.
that your idea and direction to kind of engage with that younger audience by asking him,
Sure.
do you
Yeah.
know who these players are?
Yeah. Well, it was part of it was just logistically. I was working on another project with the NBA where we got to interview, Anthony and a couple other younger guys, Tyrese Halliburton and such. And I had time to ask a few questions about this. And yeah, I just wanted to make it timely, right? I wanted to kind of, because Anthony says no, I never heard about that before. So it's just a way to kind of establish that new generation and show that this is a story that even though some people have heard about it, there's a lot of younger people that have never heard about it, and it's worth investigating just based on the names that are involved, if nothing more.
Exactly. No, I love that whole integration. I love how that was kind of the foundation, the start to
Mhm.
the documentary as well, kind of establishing that. And also as a history buff, I just love how you kind of integrated historical moments as well.
Right.
I am intrigued as to how you actually got access, by the way, to that one tape, because I had no clue that none of the other media outlets were actually allowed in that session. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy that no one stole that film over time. It didn't get
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah, no, I mean, because Chuck Daly, like, this was the first time NBA players were allowed to play in the Olympics, so there was such a media crush around it. Bird and Magic and Jordan, those guys had been fighting, battling each other in the NBA for years, and that was the first time they were actually playing together, right? It was almost like the superhero movie where all the superheroes come together. And so, but but I think Chuck Daly wanted to tell those guys, like, look, I got your back. We're going to make this like a cocoon for you guys. No one's going to be allowed in the gym except coaches, players, and referees. And so he wanted them. He wanted to create that cocoon for them. And so he only had one. There was like a still photographer in there, but there was only one video camera. Um, and it was just a VHS tape. Again, this is 1992. No cell phones, no iPhones, no high def digital cameras. VHS was the medium at that time. So
This is the please be kind rewind
yeah,
generation.
yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, that VHS was kept in a garage, and um, we were able to reach out to the owner of that and kind of unearth it. And fingers crossed that it didn't break, or time it wasn't moldy or any of those things. And we were able to get it transferred. And then when we got it back and were able to look at it, the NBA had some of that footage before, but not the whole, not all the tapes from that week. And we were able to get all the few VHSs from that whole week and the other scrimmages as well. So this is the first time people will get to see a lot of new footage surrounding it.
And then you also decided to integrate animation into the mix. Can you talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I drew as a kid. I was a big fan of like comics and animation. I just had never had the chance to use it really in a documentary. Um, but you know, there's not a lot of footage of that time. Obviously, there was just the few VHS tapes. There were some great photos that and the NBA had taken, which were huge that you'll see in the film. Um, but there were some scenes that there was no photos, there was no footage. Like, how are we going to do this? So obviously, animation, which has been used in other documentaries effectively, was I said, hey, this is the right chance, and we reached out to our illustrator Walker TKL. He's a great artist who does a lot of basketball stuff, and he's like, yeah, I'd love to work on this. And so we worked with him and our production company Blue Ox Films to kind of put that animation together. And it also plays into the whole urban legend of this story, and how it's kind of a fun, like, did it happen, didn't it happen, comic book, underdog story. So
It's a very David and Goliath story.
it is, yeah. And so it fits. It's not like the animation is out of sync with the story, you know.
Yeah. And I love how, you integrated Coach K and Grant Hill and that
Mhm.
whole perception of, two different sides of the spectrum
Yeah.
of one saying it happened one way, another saying it happened
Uh-huh.
the other way. I think it just gave it this organic kind of perception of, will we ever know, at the end of the day, like who's right and who's wrong. And, Chuck Daly at the time was just such a powerhouse when it came to coaching and just his mindset. I would love to just like go inside of his brain for a day and see what's going
Mhm.
on in there. But it does kind of leave you wondering, like, what was actually going
Yeah.
on in his head?
Well, yeah, well, I mean, that's what's great about these things. I mean, it's kind of an experiment. It's kind of like this Rashomon kind of film where you take one event that happened, but you hear it retold from different points of view, and they're all a little bit different, right? It was the
Yes.
same event, the same game happened, but this person sees it through their eyes and sees it this way, and this person sees it from their eyes. It just shows human nature and how we kind of put our own stuff into it. Um, And anytime you have some kind of controversy or debate or disagreement about something, it's always fun to explore that in a film. And my job, I felt, was just to lay out all the all the opinions, all the evidence, and I just leave it to the viewer to kind of watch it and come up to their own answer, what they think happened. But I think there's a viable argument to all sides. It's just kind of what do you believe, and that's kind of the fun of it. And hopefully, people will continue to debate this whole thing.
It was very enjoyable, and I know
Yeah.
that you got to interview so many different individuals for this, which is great. It really added some texture and layers into the different perspectives like you were talking about. Was there one interview that kind of stood out from the rest that you just were like, "Wow, this is really gonna make a monumental difference in this documentary?"
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, all the guys that were on the college select team, those guys they literally were like rubbing their hands together when we sat down, like, man, I've been waiting 32 years to tell our side of this story. So they were all like, lots of times when you're doing a documentary, you got to pull stuff out of people, but I didn't. Those guys were like, sit back, 1
Let me
hour.
get my book out for you, actually. We've got
Exactly.
this
Yeah,
ready to
exactly.
go.
I mean, half hour, 45-minute interviews turned into 3-hour interviews. And even after the cameras rolled, they were still talking. So, but I would say, beyond Grant, who was fantastic, Chris Webber, I think he was one of the last guys we got to interview, but thank God, because he was so passionate and
Oh
emotional
man,
and
you could
funny.
feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, no, this is what went down. I'm telling you. And he has got a great memory, and he's got a great smile, and he's just a lot of charisma. So
And I love when their stories unintentionally kind of really just match. Of course, it was kind of the select teams really matched each other as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
The dream team's a little different kind of
right,
perspective, but it was really cool to see it, like you said, from different perspective, different viewpoints, and then
hmm,
bringing it all together and just kind of how this is such a major memory for them that just continues to live on. And I think as well for this younger generation having this kind of historical moment. And I think as athletes, even myself, understanding kind of being the underdog team, there's no better moment in your life when you beat someone you're not supposed to beat.
exactly, exactly.
And this story kind of got put under the rug. I know you bring into the mix a little bit about the documentary that was filmed in the
Mhm.
2000s as well on the Dream Team. And this one kind of got pushed under the rug a little bit. No one
Right.
really talked about this specific scrimmage.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just it's a short little couple minute section of that original documentary, which was great. That's a great documentary. But that was really about the dream team, their whole journey to the gold medal. Um, and so it was fun to focus and go back and kind of tell the story from the college guy's point of view, have some fun with it. Then you know, there's been so many over the last 10 years with ESPN 30 for 30 and HBO and Netflix now. There's just been so many documentaries. There's not that many, I think, left as far as in the past, these kind of unknown, untold, or little known stories. And so when you get one, and then you have the footage to back it up, and you have the first person interviews, it's a lot of fun. Um,
Oh yeah.
and
I think one of my favorite stories that some of the players were talking about was 100% Larry Bird. What a
Yeah,
character.
yeah. Yeah, Larry, people think he's just kind of quiet, stoic, but he's one of the, all-time great trash talkers, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
very cynical kind of humor. And so it was fun to tell some of those stories.
Was there anything that really stands out as well as most challenging aspects to creating this documentary for you specifically?
Other than, Chuck Daly having passed away, years ago, and not being able to hear from the one guy who knows, the only guy that would know the 100% truth. Um, that secret was, buried with Chuck when he passed. And then also, there was 8 guys on that select team. We interviewed 7 of them. The only guy we didn't interview was Eric Montross, who unfortunately also passed away a little bit before were filming. So unfortunately, we didn't get to interview Eric and Chuck. But no, like I said, the guys were super excited to tell this. So, and once we had the tape, the VHS tape, it kind of came together really quick. We finished this film start to finish in probably 8 months. Like we were flying through it, and which doesn't happen that often, but it was super cool. So no,
They've been
fortunately there
prepping
wasn't.
32 years, I guess. So technically it kind of
Yeah,
was prepping of 32 years to get this
yeah,
done.
yeah, yeah. In a way, it was a long, long time coming. But no, for me, I mean, I had to, obviously fly around the country do a bunch of different times to interview all these guys. But no, it was a pleasure.
Well, I'm really excited for viewers to see this when it comes out on Max. Michael, thank you so much again for being a part of, this amazing group of individuals who will forever be leaving a spot in history, a spot in my heart. I'm not sleeping with my cards anymore, but
Yeah,
I still
you
have
still
them
got
and
them.
still got them exactly. And if you could let Grant Hill know that I think we may be related in some way, I don't know.
You got it. Yeah, I'll definitely give him the heads up to check out Shade TV and his niece or his cousin or whoever it might be there. But no, thanks, Marissa. I appreciate. I'm glad you enjoyed the film and excited for people to check it out.
Yeah, excited as well. And hopefully we'll have some Hirachis on our feet next
Yeah,
time we have a conversation, right?
there you go. You're gonna see it on the Nike app. You're gonna see the new drop on the sneakers app. It'll be coming out with it. So
Exactly. We'll have
I'll
to
be
take
getting a
credit
pair.
for this in some way.
Yeah.